The story begins in a huge and dry desert, stretching far in every direction. A helicopter flies over this empty land, and inside it sits a rich man named Richard. With him is a young woman named Jennifer, who is secretly his girlfriend even though he already has a wife. Richard has brought Jennifer to this quiet place so they can spend 2 days together in complete privacy, far away from anyone who might recognize them. After landing, Richard reaches his private desert house, where his pilot greets him and casually hands him some strong drugs as a gift or something for him to try. Richard and Jennifer head inside, and they quickly start getting close and intimate, clearly showing how deep their secret relationship is. Later that night, while they are relaxing together, Richard's wife calls him, and since she knows nothing about the affair, Richard speaks calmly and acts like everything is normal. The next morning, Jennifer wakes up early, feeling fresh, and goes to make some coffee. As she looks around, she suddenly spots two men standing near a mirror in the living area, both holding guns. Shocked and scared, she calls out to Richard in a panic. He rushes over and explains there is nothing to worry about, saying the men are his close friends, Stanley and Dimitri, who came to the desert to go hunting with him for 2 days. Even though Richard tries to calm her, Jennifer feels uneasy because Stanley keeps staring at her in a very uncomfortable way, so she walks off and returns to her room. The next day, Jennifer steps out wearing revealing clothes and confidently starts kissing Richard in front of everyone. Seeing her attractive body, both Stanley and Dimitri begin feeling drawn to her, their eyes staying on her in ways that make her feel exposed. That night, they all sit together, drinking and talking, but the mood slowly becomes uncomfortable. Stanley openly flirts with Jennifer in front of everyone, while Dimitri secretly watches her through a pair of binoculars, staring at different parts of her body like she is some kind of object to him. At one point, they notice a packet of drugs in Jack's hand. Curious, Jennifer asks Richard what he is holding. Richard, speaking in a slightly dramatic way, explains that the drug is extremely dangerous, sharing a disturbing story about a man who once took it and got so out of control that he cut off his own leg, ate it in his madness, and eventually bled to death. Even after telling such a horrifying story, Richard gives the drug to Jennifer, and she carefully hides it inside her locket as if she wants to keep it safe for later. After that, Jennifer puts on some music and tries to lighten the mood by asking Jack to dance with her, but he coldly refuses, so she ends up dancing with Stanley instead. After a few minutes of dancing, everyone heads to their rooms to sleep. The next morning, Jennifer wakes up and looks around, but cannot find Richard anywhere. Feeling uneasy, she asks Stanley where Richard is, and Stanley casually says that Richard went out for something and should be back by noon. He also mentions in a calm tone that Dimitri is still passed out drunk, so right now it is just the two of them inside the house. Stanley's voice and the way he looks at her make Jennifer uncomfortable, and sensing something is wrong, she quickly ends the conversation and walks back inside. When she goes to change her clothes, Stanley secretly watches her from the doorway, his eyes full of lust. Suddenly, Jennifer notices him staring and feels shocked and scared. Stanley then walks toward her and asks her what she thinks of him, talking as if he truly believes she might have feelings for him. Jennifer, trying to shut him down, firmly tells him that he is not her type at all and that she has no interest in him. Stanley keeps pushing, reminding her that she danced with him the night before, which made him think she might like him. Jennifer replies coldly that dancing with someone does not mean she has any romantic feelings, and she repeats that she does not like him at all. Hearing this, Stanley's mood shifts, and he suddenly becomes angry, forcing himself on her and touching her without her consent. In the middle of this terrifying moment, Dimitri appears in the doorway. Jennifer looks at him with a spark of hope, thinking he will step in and help her, but instead, he simply watches for a second, then walks away and shuts the door, leaving her alone and trapped. Stanley then assaults Jennifer completely, ignoring her cries, while Dimitri cruelly turns up the television so no one hears her. Later, Richard returns and finds Jennifer in tears. She tells him everything, hoping he will stand by her, but he ends up yelling at his friends and then scolding her too, blaming her for what happened. After a while, Richard goes back to her, trying to calm her and ease the situation, but Jennifer is firm and demands that he call a helicopter right away because she wants to leave immediately. Richard refuses and tries to convince her to stay and rest, promising that things will settle down. The next day, Richard comes back to her and says he has put a large amount of money in her account, as if that will fix anything, and he adds that his friend simply lost control after seeing her, indirectly excusing the assault. Hearing this disgusting excuse, Jennifer becomes furious and declares that she will tell Richard's wife everything about their affair and about what happened. Angry at her words, Richard slaps her across the face, leaving her shocked and hurt. Terrified, Jennifer tries to run away from the house, but Richard, Stanley, and Dimitri all chase after her together. Running through the desert, Jennifer reaches a steep mountain slope and stops there, struggling to catch her breath. The three men catch up, and Richard, acting calm, tells her not to run anymore and to stay where she is. Jennifer demands again that he must call the helicopter right away. Richard pretends to agree, pulling out his phone and acting as if he is making the call, speaking fake words into it as though someone is really on the other end. Jennifer, believing him, stands still and listens, but suddenly, without any warning, Richard shoves her hard down the slope. Jennifer falls roughly and lands on a sharp wooden stick, which pierces straight through her body. Seeing her impaled and not moving, the three men stand above her, convinced she is dead. Stanley, shaken and scared, asks Richard why he did that, and Richard coldly says that if Jennifer had escaped, all three of them would have ended up in prison, so he felt he had no choice but to get rid of her. He then tells his friends to forget everything and move on. Back at the house, they collect all of Jennifer's things, her clothes, her phone, her bag, and burn them, trying to erase any sign she was ever there. Meanwhile, out in the desert, it is shown that Jennifer is still alive, badly hurt, but breathing. The next day, unaware she survived, the three men plan to return and destroy her body completely, not knowing that Jennifer has somehow held on and is silently thinking about what to do next. When Jennifer finally wakes up, she realizes she is alive, but in terrible pain. She is hanging awkwardly from a tree, and a sharp branch is stabbed through her body. Even though she is weak and shocked, she gathers her strength and notices her earphones hanging nearby with a small lighter attached. With trembling hands, she manages to grab the lighter. Thinking fast, she sets fire to the base of the tree where the branch is stuck, hoping it will burn through and free her. The flames slowly weaken the wood, and as it breaks, Jennifer falls hard to the ground, groaning from the pain, but relieved to finally be free. Lying there, she suddenly hears the distant sound of vehicles getting closer, and it terrifies her because she knows the men might be coming back. Using every bit of strength she has left, she crawls across the rough ground and hides behind a large rock, holding her breath. Moments later, Richard, Stanley, and Dimitri reach the spot where she was hurt. When they see that her body is gone, panic hits all three of them. They instantly realize Jennifer must still be alive, and fear spreads across their faces because they know she could expose everything. They quickly start searching in desperation. Hours go by. The sun sets, and even late at night, they are still looking through the endless desert. Eventually, they see a faint trail of Jennifer's blood on the ground. Following the marks, step by step, they reach a nearby river. At the riverbank, they decide to split up to cover more ground. Dimitri moves off on his own and, after a while, stops to rest, placing his gun beside him. Suddenly, Jennifer appears quietly and grabs the gun, aiming it at Dimitri with shaky hands, her finger trembling on the trigger. She tries to shoot, but the safety is still on. Before she can change it, Dimitri reacts fast, grabs the gun back, and charges at her. He drags her into the water, trying to drown her in a frenzy, but during the struggle, his knife slips from his belt and Jennifer's hand finds it. With a sudden burst of strength, she stabs Dimitri in the eye, killing him instantly. Dimitri lets out a terrible scream before his body goes limp in the water. Breathing hard and trembling, Jennifer pulls the knife from his eye and keeps it. She then takes his gun, his motorcycle, and whatever supplies she can gather, escaping the area to stay alive. Eventually, she finds a cave deep in the desert. Inside, she starts a small fire for warmth and begins looking through Dimitri's bag. Among his belongings, she discovers a beer can, which she drinks greedily, desperate for relief. Her stomach wound throbs with unbearable pain, so she remembers the drug Richard once gave her and had hidden in her locket. She swallows the drug, and soon a calming numbness spreads through her body, dulling the agony. Summoning all her courage, she carefully removes the piece of wood lodged in her stomach. To stop the bleeding, she heats the knife in the fire until it glows red hot, then presses it against the wound, cauterizing it while she screams through gritted teeth. Exhausted, she collapses and sleeps. By morning, Stanley wanders to the river to wash his face, only to see Dimitri's lifeless body floating there. Horrified, he stumbles backward, heart racing, and soon Richard arrives. Together, they drag Dimitri's corpse out of the water, fill it with heavy stones, and throw it back in to sink it. Hoping to erase any trace enraged over Dimitri's death, Richard punches Stanley in the face, breaking his nose and blaming him for everything. Despite their anger, the two men band together again and continue hunting for Jennifer. Meanwhile, Jennifer wakes up in the cave, feeling strange from the lingering effects of the drug, but her wound has healed enough for her to move. As she tries to leave the cave, she suddenly imagines Richard sneaking up and smashing her head with a gun. She gasps awake, realizing it was only a nightmare caused by the drug's side effects. Fully alert now, she notices Dimitri's dead body once more in her mind's haze. But as the drug wears off, her focus returns. Gripping her gun tightly, she steps outside and uses binoculars to scan the surroundings. At the same time, Richard and Stanley decide to split up, each searching a different direction. Richard disappears into the distance, while Stanley, unaware of being watched, pulls out a mirror and examines his injured face. The glint of sunlight reflecting off the mirror catches Jennifer's attention from far away, and she immediately knows someone is there. Quietly, she makes her way toward the source of the reflection and spots Stanley. Around this time, Stanley's car runs out of petrol. He steps out to refill it, giving Jennifer the perfect chance. She takes aim and fires her gun. The bullet hits Stanley's shoulder, and he cries out, staggering away in pain. Desperate, Stanley notices a trail of his own blood and quickly removes his shoes and socks, pressing them against the wound to slow the bleeding limping. He runs and hides behind a large rock. Jennifer arrives shortly after, scanning the area carefully. Suddenly, Stanley ambushes her from behind, firing his gun. The bullet grazes Jennifer's ear, making her yelp in pain. She sprints off as Stanley chases her through the rough terrain. Thinking fast, Jennifer scatters sharp pieces of broken glass on the ground behind her. Stanley steps on them, and the shards cut deeply into his bare feet, slowing him down. Gritting his teeth, he pulls the glass pieces out one by one, blood dripping, and then climbs into his car to chase Jennifer once again. But before he can get far, Jennifer fires another shot. This time, the bullet strikes him fatally, and Stanley collapses, dead. Taking his car, Jennifer drives back toward Richard's isolated home. Meanwhile, Richard, still unable to locate Jennifer, grows nervous and waits for Stanley. When Stanley never returns, Richard heads back home too. Once there, he calls his pilot urgently, demanding that he come immediately. Richard then heads to the bathroom for a shower, trying to calm himself. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound outside. Alarmed, he grabs his gun and steps outside to investigate, but he finds nothing. Confused, he goes back inside, only to freeze in shock when he sees Jennifer standing there, gun aimed steadily at him. Richard tries to reason with her, speaking carefully, but Jennifer does not hesitate. She fires, and a bullet tears into Richard's stomach. Wounded and panicked, Richard tries to flee deeper into the house, but Jennifer follows relentlessly. They try to catch on to each other. However, they are unable to discover each other's exact locations. Richard then tightens a plastic wrap around his wound and goes away to search for Jennifer. Jennifer follows, but slips over the blood. This prompts Richard to lunge at her, managing to grab her and attempt to strangle her. But Jennifer drives her fingers into his open wound, making him scream and release her. Without wasting a second, Jennifer lifts her gun and fires again, this time striking Richard in the head. He falls to the floor, lifeless. And with that final act, Jennifer's harrowing fight for survival ends as her painful journey of revenge complete.